The holidays are here and it's time for the very last patch of the year for Star Citizen. This time it's 3.22 and it literally just went live at the posting of this video. And while it's not bucking the trend of light patches with mostly quality of life fixes, it does have some interesting stuff in it. Stuff like the new weapon recoil and FPS balance from Squadron 42, glorious new hair, derelict settlements, structural salvage, cargo containers, some nice updates to Arena Commander, some new ships including the new Santokai, which is just gorgeous, as well as some juicy small features that you won't find in the patch notes. And we also got some news about the replication layer, that tech they need before they get to server meshing. And I'm going to tell you guys all about that in this latest installment of the best features. But if by the end you guys think I did a good job and you think I deserve it, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to show your support and let me know that you want some more content, that is. So let's start off with some of the smaller features which weren't originally listed on the cards for what was coming for this latest patch. First off is the weapon recoil and FPS combat rebalance. This includes some rebalancing for weapons across the board, including reworking the way recoil works, alongside some improvements to the way some of the weapons sound. Particularly of note is the LH86 pistol, which has now gotten its fully automatic ability, which has massive recoil but is a ton of fun to use. Other big changes of note is a change to the community favorite FS9 LMG, which has seen itself get nerfed with a lower ammo count of now 75 per magazine and a lower rate of fire. Strangely though, the energy-based Democo LMG has been massively buffed, which I think will probably now become the meta instead, so we've just traded one LMG for another. I suggest testing all the weapons though, as you'll find that most of them have seen some changes, and you can do that in Arena Commander, which has some new modes we'll talk about later. To go over quickly some of the other smaller changes, some updates to the tractor beam UI have been made, some ship mining changes have been done to rebalance them. The FPS armor in the game have now seen an increase in their price. AI FPS performance has been improved, although I don't know how much that will matter for server performance. And the Duster's unique gear sets have been quietly introduced into the game. This stuff was shown off at CitizenCon and it's really cool looking. Only weird thing about them is that they're technically clothing, although they do have the attributes of armor. This means that you can't EVA with them or even breathe in them in any kind of location that has non-breathable atmosphere. I've tried to EVA with it, it didn't work. I'm not sure if this is intentional or if it's just something that they've done temporarily, because it seems that they wanted to combine armor with clothing, which doesn't currently work in the game, so they might have just said, all right, we'll make the armor clothing for now. I'm not sure. And as a last small win for the community for small updates, they added the A1, the Cutter Scout, the Mirai Fury series, and the Hull C to the in-game ship shops. Now let's start to talk about some of the bigger changes. A new selection of glorious hair options are now at your disposal for making your character look amazing. Seriously though, they're very good looking and a huge improvement over what we had before, using some of the new physics stuff they'd been working on for hair shown at CitizenCon this year. This is part of the work that they were doing for Squadron 42, but unfortunately it's only a small portion of what we saw they'll eventually have on offer. Stuff like dreadlocks are currently not available, so it's not going to be all-inclusive for everybody in the community for the moment. So it's really only just a little sampling, or a taste test if you will. But it's not just hair. They've added 15 new derelict settlements across Microtech and Hurston. Each of them appear to be a uniquely designed location, taking advantage of some spectacular local geography with their layout, showing off some of CIG's improvements to their Rastar planet tech. The much denser alpine forests surrounding the Microtech ones in particular come to mind. And of course, I really like the oil-rigged one on Hurston, which actually has 2 outpost areas, including this really tall tower in the center, with a pathway leading up to it, something that they couldn't have done before. These locations feature a number of shops and even bars and are occupied mostly by neutral NPCs. However, if you do shoot the NPCs, they will start shooting back. I found that out when I tried to steal some of the cool Duster kit I found at one of the locations that I really wanted. Some missions though will also bring you here to clear out some gang members, though I'm sure that there will also be some illegal missions as well. And one of the new locations is actually one of the new drug labs as part of the upcoming return of Jumptown, which I'm really looking forward to. For a complete list, on Hurston there's Zephyr, Maker's Point, Pickersfield, Weeping Cove, Cutter's Rig, and Repel. On Microtech, there's Frostbite, Razor's Edge, Bloodshot Ridge, Harper's Point, Astor's Clearing, Moorland Hills, and Dunborough. Now, as a fair warning, you won't find all of these on the map. Some of them will only be locatable through the mission sets. Cargo containers have also been introduced in the game, and that might sound strange. You've already had cargo in the game, but what I'm talking about are purchasable cargo containers from a cargo deck on a space station. You can buy anywhere from 1 to 8 SCU boxes, which function as a large portable inventory that can be accessed by clicking on them or opening them in your own inventory. You can also drag and drop them onto the floor in front of you when you want to load them onto your own ship's cargo grid. I though recommend you do this outside of your ship as opposed to inside, or it might phase through the ship and blow it up, so just watch out for that. I think this is a temporary measure before they get the cargo lifts that they've been working on, so we probably won't be able to do this after that comes out. Now, what these can be used for is really up to you. Personally, I'm going to be using them for organizing armor, weapons, and ammo for big org events so that players that want to join the event have a way to easily get kitted up and look like the rest of us. You can even nest them within one another so you can create basically like folders or sections of the storage so you can neatly separate armor, weapons, and ammo into their own smaller containers. Though, unfortunately, we can't name them just yet. That's going to be coming later. On the subject of cargo, they also have made some changes to the way that cargo is removed from ships' cargo grids. Now, if a ship is powered and you aren't in the party of the person who owns the ship, you will not be able to move the cargo off the grid. The ship will have to be powered down or go into a down state in order for them to be removable. And I'm sure this is going to be great news for hull owners everywhere, as their stuff can no longer just be yoinked off of their ship as they're flying around. Yeah, if you didn't know, that was a thing. Then there were the Arena Commander updates. Starting off with the FPS combat, there are some new maps called Bloodshot Ridge and Maker's Point. These are some of the outposts that were actually introduced to the PU, so you can see them in Arena Commander instead if you prefer and try them out for fighting. Each of them are a welcome addition to change up the Arena Commander experience, which has been a little bit dry for some time. The multi-crew feature was also finally added into the game, into a number of game modes, such as Squadron Battle, Tank Battle, Free Flight, and Swarm modes. This includes a new selection screen as well, so that you can choose which ship to spawn in and even choose which ship to fly, so you don't have to go back to the menu to select a new one. This is a great quality of life improvement, and I really hope that they add this to the FPS combat side of things so that you can change your loadout of your guy without having to go all the way back to the main menu. The new flight model, Master Modes, has also seen some improvements in Arena Commander. They've made tweaks based on feedback and added 3 new ships for testing. This includes the F-7CM Super Hornet, the Vanguard, and the Buccaneer, in addition to the already existing Gladius, which each have been rebalanced in a sort of role-type setting. Other changes included a big update to the way weapons work in Master Modes. Now they behave the way they discussed at CitizenCon, where the weapon spread is the determining factor in the range that you're able to engage. So now you can shoot at targets up to 4 to 5 kilometers away and actually hit them, albeit quite a lot less than you would if you were a lot closer. There's a lot to unpack here though with this update, and I think it deserves its own video. Salvage has gotten another big piece of its gameplay loop called Structural Salvage, and it replaces what they were previously calling hull munching. How it works is that after you scrape the hull with the existing hull scraping mechanics, you'll now be able to fracture the ship so long as the power is off, and then you can begin disintegrating the constituent parts that come off for a new resource called construction material. However, there isn't any kind of minigame involved in this process like you'll find in the mining gameplay loop, so there isn't the same kind of risk associated with salvaging as there is with mining. That's not all though. There's been a rebalance of profitability for scraping to make it a bit more valuable as a resource as opposed to the new resource that they just added. Additionally, they've added something called a buffer to both the Reclaimer and the Vulture, which stores material that you've salvaged until you're ready to deploy it into some SCU boxes. This means that there's no more frequent trips required down to the cargo bay to move boxes so that you can keep salvaging, which, if I might say so, is a huge quality of life improvement. The Vulture currently has 13 SCU of buffer, leaving the Reclaimer with a total of 240. That's huge. That's a huge number. It's worth noting though that you can't sell anything from the buffer, so you'll have to put it into a box before it can be sold. This effectively can double the size of both of these ships' storage capacity if you don't put everything into a box beforehand. Both the Vulture and the Reclaimer have also gotten themselves some updates to accommodate the new mechanics. This involves a new animation for the Vulture to allow it to process the incoming construction materials. In the case of the Reclaimer in particular, its large arm now animates and functions for the purpose of structural salvage. They've walked back the physical interaction concept that they originally had with it, so that might be disappointing to some of you who are looking forward to that. To be fair though, I'm not sure how they were ever going to pull that off, so I can see why they did this. It can only be controlled though by a co-pilot, adding an additional functional crew position to the ship, and the cargo bay also saw another update with the dispensary, which is now much larger and can output boxes bigger than a single SCU, up to 16 SCU in fact. Overall, I think it's filled out Salvage quite a bit more, but it's still a far cry from where mining currently is at the moment. It could stand to gain some additional risk versus reward gameplay. My hope is that their shift from Squadron 42 back to Star Citizen will give them some resources to invest more time into gameplay loops like this to make them a lot more engaging and fleshed out. For example, not all of the ships currently have their components accessible. And last but not least, but probably one of the more exciting parts of this patch, are the ships. 322 has introduced the long-awaited X1 series in all of its 3 variants, minus some of their advertised functionality. The X1 Speed, for example, doesn't currently have functioning folding wings, and the X1 Force lacks its second shield generator as advertised. No word on when that's going to make an appearance. As a side note, the X1 series does in fact fit in the 400A parking bay specifically made for it, so at least that works as advertised. Most of the time. I mean, if you really can find a use for the X1 series, because let's be honest, ground vehicles aren't really in a good place right now for Star Citizen. They don't really have much functionality, but it's cool. It's a cool thing. The Santokiai, on the other hand, by AOPA, a medium fighter from the Xi'an race, is pretty spectacular. It's beautiful from pretty much every single angle, and its performance backs up its looks. The pivoting engines give it some insane acceleration in pretty much all directions, but there are some downsides. One of the big ones is that it's got a huge head-on profile, making it easy to hit from a distance, and it has low redundancy, which means if one of those engine pods gets destroyed or damaged, well, good luck, you've lost control of the ship. That being said, it is an absolute joy to fly, and I look forward to giving it a full review as I think it is due. And then you've got the Drake Cutter Rambler, which is a more premium starter ship package that reduces a bit of the cargo space in favor of more sizable living quarters. Now, I have my own opinion on this. Personally, I think it wasn't a great way to make it better. I kind of wish that they would have just extended the ship's length, kind of like what they did with, say, the Freelancer Max, to give it the same capacity for cargo. That's one of the things that makes it such a good option. I fear that this change will actually make it worse than the base cutter as a starter ship for new players. At least I think with the current iteration of the game. At some point when we get survival stuff that matters, then maybe this new one will be better. Who knows? It looks cool though. So overall then, as you can see, it's not really the biggest patch we've ever gotten for Star Citizen. Most of what's in here are quality of life features and minor updates. I mean, the headline feature, Structural Salvage, isn't really its own fully fledged standalone feature. It's more of an addition to an existing feature that was added earlier that was probably originally planned to release along with salvaging back when it initially released. But it'll still keep us occupied for some time while we wait for the Replication Layer, which I promised I'd mention. So it seems that the Replication Layer is planned for a 3.22.x patch, which means that it's going to release sometime early next year after CIG comes back from their holiday break. This unfortunately means that there will be no testing of server meshing this year, which a lot of people were hoping we would see. Honestly though, the Replication Layer is some difficult tech to tackle at scale, and I'm not at all surprised that it's gotten delayed. Furthermore, from what we've heard from several developers, their shift back to Star Citizen from Squadron 42 is going to take some time. We're probably only going to really start seeing an acceleration of Star Citizen's development around Q1 or probably more likely Q2 next year. So while the slow pace of development will sadly continue for a little while longer, it will eventually speed up next year, making hopefully next year one of the better years for Star Citizen's development in its entire history. I'm not going to say it's going to be the year for Star Citizen, but I hope it will be. We'll see. I'll leave that prediction for another video that I'll inevitably get flamed on. But what do you guys think? Are you excited for 3.22? Are you excited for Jumptown or any of the other events that they're going to be updating along with some of these new mechanics? Let me know down below in the comment section. And also don't forget that Luminalia is going on right now where they've got some referral bonuses, so if you want to refer a friend, you can get some free stuff. And it's just cool to get some free stuff generally on the website, so don't forget to check the Luminalia page so you can get your free kit for the holidays. It is not automatic. You actually have to click on the page and click your gift. That's all for now. Hope to see you guys in the next one.